I want to ask you a question, and don't you cheat. Don't go Googling this to see if you can sneak the answer in under my nose. If you don't know it, you got to admit you don't know it and just be cool with it. If you do, okay, then I'm impressed. I want to ask you if you know who Mark David Chapman is. You know who Mark David Chapman is? A lot of Marks out there. Could be anybody. The Mark David Chapman I'm talking about is a guy who assassinated John Lennon in 1980, shot him 4 times outside John's apartment building, an obsessed, crazed fan. When asked why he assassinated John Lennon, he said, in order to be the most famous person in the world, I have to kill the most famous person in the world. It seems we have within us, many of us, a shared desire to leave some kind of legacy, to be remembered for something. Some of us will do anything to get there, despite how good or wicked that those means might be. Zarya Gorvit, I hope I'm saying that right, Zarya Gorvit, wrote a really interesting article called "Who Will Be Remembered in 1,000 Years?" I'm in the secluded western corner of London's Highgate Cemetery, looking at a large marble tomb. It's long and box-like, with a life-size sculpture of a dog slumped at its foot. The stone is mottled, and tendrils of strangling ivy are creeping up its base. An inscription reads, "Erected to the memory of Thomas Sayers." Our guide asks the group if anyone has heard of this man. We shake our heads blankly. At the time of his death, the situation was very different. It was the winter of 1865, and Sayers, who began his career as an illiterate bricklayer, had risen to become the most celebrated sportsman of the Victorian age. This was England's first bare-knuckle fighting champion. His final match, which he fought largely one-handed in a Hampshire field, was watched by thousands. Special trains were chartered to transport the spectators, who included fellow Victorian superstars like the novelists Charles Dickens and William Thackeray. Even the Prime Minister of the day, Lord Palmerston, attended. Parliament shortened its hours, especially, and Queen Victoria asked to be informed of the result. When he died a few years later, the funeral procession stretched for 2 miles and included some 100,000 people. The cemetery descended into chaos as people climbed trees and trampled tombstones, hoping for a better view. 152 years on, his reputation has turned to dust. He's still well known to history buffs and boxing obsessives, but to the rest of us, he needs an introduction. It goes on to explain sort of what the causes, the underlying causes of somebody being remembered might be. Think of philosophers, for example, and how we still remember the Platos and the Aristotles. Lynette Mitchell said this. She said, they changed the way people thought, and that's why they have remained important. Thomas Sayers, for example, was a sportsman. This is somebody who doesn't necessarily change the way that you think. Ruth Penfold Mounts, a sociologist, said, sporting heroes impact a generation, but once they start to go out of living memory, they decline. David Beckham will disappear, I'm afraid. The idea of there being a way to thrive or succeed at the things that we endeavor to try and succeed at in life is not something that's foreign to us as a people, as a species. A 2017 study out of University of Colorado Boulder, this is part of Nike's big plan to try and break a marathon time officially in under 2 hours, that studied running efficiencies and shows that slow runs, like a 9-minute mile pace and above, can help improve running economy more than consistently having fast runs. And that's something that is a little bit counterintuitive. Like, we need to run slower to run faster, but there is a scientifically proven way that we can, a path that we can take that will lead us to a more improved athleticism on the field when it matters. The Romans thought of early Christians as a kind of Jewish sect, and they called it the Way. What is it about this life in particular that carries such weight across the annals of time and space? The way that he proposed was one where we are people of salt and light, where we flavor the world with our goodness and our joy, and we show people the way to true life rather than becoming this homogenous version of evil, where we look a little bit like everybody else pursuing their own ends for their own selfish gain. His way is to value peace over strength and power, to value humility over pride, to value the neighbor as much as the self, to put God first. That self-sacrifice is worth more to God than self-preservation. That our neighbor includes everyone, including the people that we would describe as either our enemies or the outcasts of the world, the unlovable. If we're to find life, there has to be some kind of death first. It could, for us, simply be an ego death. Christ proves that leaving our old selves behind can be a messy thing, but a necessary part of growing. If there are parts of you physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually that don't belong in the kind of way that Christ describes, I invite you to nail those parts of yourself to the cross, as painful as that might be. And you might be asking yourself, well, who am I going to be now? And how do I explain myself to my friends or my parents, my colleagues, if I'm suddenly different and start making different choices and start defending different aims in life? It's going to be messy, but Christ did it first. And Christ also showed you that there is a better life waiting for you on the other side of that cross. And that's what Easter is all about. That's an idea we're celebrating. So yes, we all many of us share a desire for some kind of lasting legacy. Many of us will take any road to get there, but there is one way, I believe, to a true fountain of life and the kind of legacy that will echo into the halls of heaven for all eternity. And that's Christ's way through the cross and the resurrection. Happy Easter.